Kenyan school preserves culture by putting Africa at its center. That and more stories in our bullet today. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahabi Kajura, but first, other headlines. NRM-CEC maintains incumbent EALA members for another term. Angolan extends Luanda oil refinery to boost fuel production. Outrun by gas prices, Kenyan families turn to charcoal to cook. In our sports news today, Dauda Lands made an NRC win in drama field Fort Portal Rally. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Please start with one of our top stories. The National Resistance Movement Top Organ Central Executive Committee has resolved to maintain its incumbent representatives in the East African Legislative Assembly for another term. Now, this decision was reached on Friday during the committee's 10th meeting sitting, chaired by Party Chairman Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in Entebbe. We have the report. Initially, Central Executive Committee (CEC) had received 130 members who had shown interest in the position of members of ELA on NRM ticket. However, in a communication dated July 8, 2022, by the party secretary Richard, having noted that withdrawal of 63 candidates, CEC resolved to maintain the 6 incumbent members as its representatives on ELA. The 6 members include Rose Akolo Okulu, James Kakoza, Mary Mujenyi, Paul Mwasa, Dennis Namara, and George Stephen Odongo. The MPs will represent Uganda in the EALA on the ruling NRM party. According to Richard's statement, the CEC recommended that the incumbent EALA members be maintained in recognition of their exceptional performance to continue their tenure for another term as members of the East African Legislative Assembly. The 6 incumbents, according to Richard, have been endorsed to the Parliamentary Caucus for further consideration. Away from that, the Forum for Democratic Change (FDC) has called upon government to do away with the $3.5 tax on textiles following the current tough economy. Now, Harold Kaija, the FDC Deputy Secretary General, who addressed journalists on Monday, said this tax is unfair and unprecedented. Nalugo has the report.
In August 2021, dealers in imported garments got relieved after the Minister of Finance Planning and Economic Development, Matia Kasaija, announced a waiver of some tax on the goods. The traders had earlier decried the high cost of doing business due to the import duty tax of $3.5 per kilogram of clothes, or 35% of the value of the item. However, according to Harold Kaija, the Deputy Secretary General of FTC, they have been informed by the traders that this tax is back.
But we have been informed by those in the textile business that this tax is back. We want to tell you that this is a very unfair tax, very unprecedented, for we do not know any country where textile is measured in kilograms. As we all are aware, we measure textile in quality. We measure textile in meters.
The $3.5 tax on textiles is meant to protect local industries that produce clothes. However, according to Kaija, these industries can only be able to produce 3% of what is required in the country.
2, these industries do not actually make clothes. They bring clothes and only put labels. 3, these companies are not indigenous. So I would think that the government in this kind of biting situation, where you cannot provide jobs and Ugandans are trying to make ends meet, it would be prudent that the government stops this kind of tax.
He therefore called upon the government to use standards while imposing taxes like other developed countries.
So we are calling on government, keep your tax, shave your tax, and then use the standards that other countries are using. Tax on invoice. You look at the invoice, how much somebody bought a given quantity of textile, and tax them.
On the other hand, FDC also advised cabinet ministers to avoid dodging plenary sittings in order to be able to represent their people and solve the issues that affect their constituencies.
Well, thank you so much, reporter. Moving on in the top stories, the Lord Mayor Kampala, Elias Lukwago, has filed a case in the High Court of Uganda, demanding court to stop all the directives prohibiting street vending and hawking in Kampala city and within the metropolitan area.
Speaking at a media briefing at City Hall in Kampala, the Lord Mayor of Kampala, Elias Lukwago, notified Ugandans that they are constrained to plan for the city by the Minister for Kampala, the RCC and her technical team of KCCA. Thus, they have filed a case to challenge the illegal actions they have embarked on. He added that the eviction orders are not sanctioned by the KCCA Act, as the operations are not intended to create trade orders, saying that these are security operations sanctioned by the National Security Council. The mayor says the decision of reducing border in the city by the State Minister of Kampala, Chofa Togabye, and RCC Rora is irrational, since the law vests the power of regulating transport to KCCA. On several occasions, the military has evicted and arrested citizens, something they have asked the court to nullify, as the army is supposed to be guarding the borders. Other players being thought in the suit include directing the government to provide funds for development plans like markets, the railways, and putting in place a law enforcement team, among others.
We take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back for the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news, a Kenyan school is putting Africa at its center to preserve cultural heritage and pass traditions down to future generations. Now, those behind Freedom School in Nakuru say some Western education and cultural concepts have pushed African traditions to the back of the textbook. Have a look at the story.
Children at the school in Western Kenya follow an Afrocentrism-based curriculum that is teaching children to embrace their own culture. The school was founded in January 2018 and now has over 300 students aged between 5 and 14 years old. In the school, students are taught their respective mother tongues and alternative local dialect. For instance, a child from Chikuyu tribe will be taught Luo. They are also taught their history, where they are from, who they are, and from which clans they originate. Co-founder Oku Kanayo said that they realized that most children were just going to school to learn, not to gain an identity. He said that most students here have started performing better academically. Afrocentrism means the education provided is African-centered. Children are taught to embrace who they are and where they are from. Uthori Kanayo, principal and co-founder of the institution, said that other cultures have been cancelling out African culture in the classroom. The school is unique in that it allows students to use their traditional names while addressing in traditional African attire. This isn't common in most African countries, where the majority embrace common school uniforms worn in the West. The children are allowed to dress according to which tribe they come from. The children are also taught in their respective mother tongues and told to embrace their traditions while still learning the traditional Kenyan curriculum.
Away from that, Jose Eduardo dos Santos, who ruled Angola for 38 years, died on Friday at a hospital in Barcelona after suffering cardiac arrest. According to the government, he was 79 years. Now, Angolans eulogized the former president Jose Eduardo dos Santos, who died on Friday in Spain, as a patriot. Angolan President João Lourenço, who is seeking the re-election in August, said that the country had suffered a big loss and declared 5 days of national mourning starting on Saturday. Dos Santos was admitted to a hospital in Spain and placed in intensive care after suffering a cardiac arrest on June 23rd. Namibia's President Hage called Dos Santos an outstanding revolutionary. Portuguese President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa described him as a decisive protagonist in the relations with Angola's former colonial power. Former Portuguese Prime Minister and ex-head of the European Commission, José Manuel Barroso, recalled a leader of exceptional intelligence who was able to guarantee Angolan national unity. For much of his time at the head of his MPLA party, Dos Santos fought a civil war. The conflict was a Cold War hotspot, with Dos Santos receiving Soviet and Cuban backing, while UNITA rebels had Washington and apartheid South Africa on their side. When the 27-year conflict ended in 2002, Dos Santos led Angola away from hardline Marxism and fostered a post-war oil boom and foreign investment surge that transformed Central Luanda. Moving on, in international news, the Commission's chief said non-state actors were responsible for large-scale violations such as ethnic or religious killings and forced displacement of civilians. Now, the head of the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission lamented on Friday that the conflicts in Ethiopia have resulted in brutal and cruel human rights violations by both security forces and armed groups. Take a look at the story.
A statutorily independent public institution, the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission has published its first annual report since the reform that brought Daniel Bekele to its head in mid-2019 and restored credibility to a body with a degraded reputation. Bekele explained in presenting the report in Addis Ababa that death, physical and psychosocial injuries, sexual and gender-based violence, displacement and destruction of property were inflicted on civilians, including women, children, the elderly and the disabled. In addition, non-state actors are responsible for large-scale violations such as ethnic or religious killings and forced displacement of civilians. Since November 2020, the Ethiopian federal government has been in armed conflict with rebel authorities in the northern region of Tigray. A rebellion is also active in Oromia, the country's largest and most populous region, and Ethiopia has recently experienced several episodes of unethically motivated violence. In conflict zones, the rights to life, security, justice, and freedom from cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment have been violated by all sides, according to Bekele.
Away from that, supporters of Roch Marc Kabore staged a protest at the former president's residence to prevent him from attending a meeting in Burkina Faso's former heads of state in Ouagadougou on Friday. We have more. Called by army ruler Demiba to accelerate national reconciliation, the function only had 2 former presidents out of 5, Blaise Compaoré and Jean-Baptiste. Kabore said during a press conference that they were preparing for the meeting when he found the situation outside the door, where people who were mobilized and demanding not to attend the meeting. Speaking alongside junta leader Damiba urged unity to defeat Islamist militants. But the invitation of Compaoré, who was in April sentenced to life in jail for the murder of Thomas Sankara, has left many unhappy. The other former leaders invited to attend the summit were Roch Marc Christian Kabore, who was overthrown in January, Isaac Zida, who briefly took office in 2014 and currently lives in exile in Canada, and Micho Kafando, who ruled from 2014 to 2015, but none of them attended. Members of Kabore's party, the People's Movement for Progress, were among those demonstrating to prevent him from attending the summit of former heads of state. Boukari Konombo, president of the Black Armband, a civil society movement, dismissed the new president's attempt to reconciliation as a farce. Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with sports, health, and business. Welcome back for the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. Talking matters business, Angolan President João Lourenço inaugurated an extension unit on the Mourned refinery, which aims to increase the production of crude oil products fourfold, especially petrol. Now, an agreement with the Italian company Eni was also signed to improve the production and marketing processes.
According to João Lourenço, the president of Angola, the main highlight is increasing the production capacity of refined petroleum products such as diesel and gasoline. He added that the situation in the country, which has significant crude oil production but until recently had little capacity to transform it, was somewhat incomprehensible. The new plant will bump up Angola's fuel production to 1.58 million liters a day, contributing to 15% reduction in annual imports, according to state-owned company Sonangol. Angola is sub-Saharan Africa's second largest oil exporter after Nigeria, but according to government figures, it produces only about 20% of the refined products it needs. Due with support from Italian energy giant Eni, the new Luanda facility is one of several multi-million-dollar projects initiated by Lourenço, who is seeking re-election in August.
In Africa Today Health, as global prices rise, the cost of buying gas is becoming unbearable for many Kenyans, and the chase for alternatives is leading some of the forests for charcoal. We have more.
Charcoal, an amorphous form of carbon obtained when the wood is burned in minimal oxygen, is proving to be the easiest, yet more damaging alternative. In sub-Saharan Africa, indigenous trees such as the acacia provide high-quality charcoal which fetches a good price at the market. Locals neighboring government forests are illegally logging and killing protected forests in earnest to get income, while consumers in rural homes, towns and cities are looking for alternative fuel to cushion highly priced cooking gases. 27-year-old Kevin Chovi, a resident of Chisasi in Chitui country, wakes up early in the morning with a panga and an axe. With charcoal prices going up from 400 to 700 Kenya shillings, Chavi says business has been booming since fuel and gas prices started skyrocketing. A 12-kilo cylinder rose from 1,600 Kenyan shillings in 2021 to 3,000 Kenyan shillings this year, more than doubling in price.
In our sports news today, Umar Dauda and Hamza Luanga pulled a surprising finish, registering their first career national rally victory in what was an eventful Fort Porto rally. Now Dauda, who was barely tipped for victory this weekend, consolidated his drive where top contenders fell on the wayside.
The Mitsubishi VI driver started the final day in a sixth position. He steadily moved to the top 5 and later held on for the win when Duncan Mobiru retired and clubman rally driver Mike Mukula covered his percentage of the rally. Dauda claimed the victory having posted 1 hour 25 minutes and 38 seconds, which he admits was a carefully attained one. Jonas Kasime took second place after finishing 11 seconds behind the winner. Mark Lubega and Daniel Mbabasi landed their first NRC podium and best career finish as they sealed the podium positions. Peter Kalule finished 4th, followed by Byron Rugomoka in 5th overall. Oscar Ntambi yet again topped the two-wheel drive category behind rival Ibrahim Lubega and Godfrey Sereko in 3rd. Current NRC leader Ponciano Ruakataka had engine misfire, ending the rally after 2 stages on Saturday. The next round will be in Zimbabwe next month.
Well, thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We should keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.